forsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken. Proof I'm better than.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about Crown Jewel, aka Saudi Mania 2021. And the long and the short of it is this is actually one of the better Saudi shows. This Saudi show actually delivered. Just about every match was good. At least it was solid. The crowd was into every match, unlike some of the earlier ones where the crowd was kind of like, huh? Well, who is this guy? And then WWE would do weird things like bring in Akibono or some other big fat guy in order to trick the Saudis into thinking it was Yokozuna. In this one, they really loaded the show up with talent. Storylines going into it. It didn't feel like it was a non-canon show or a house show. Because sometimes, like the early Saudi shows, they felt like non-canon house shows or big budget house shows. You know, nobody really cared what happened going into the show or what happened coming out of the show. Nothing mattered. While this show felt like a regular part of the WWE lineup, you know, like it felt like a real pay-per-view. And that's the right way of doing the Saudi shows. And they didn't do anything stupid on the show. There was nothing stupid to complain about on this show. There were some things that, you know, could have been done better. Nothing was perfect. Nothing is perfect. But nothing was stupid. The top rope didn't break in none of these matches. But great in-ring product. They built up the stories well. Gave the fans what they want in some good feel-good moments. So some prizes took place. A lot of stuff that took place. Really good show. It was the only problem I had with it. It was 4 hours. It was entirely too long. There was, of course, some matches, especially in the early part of the show, where we know we could have trimmed that, or maybe even gotten rid of it. But still, an overall pretty good show. So let's start with the kickoff show. Well, the Hurt Business lost to the Usos in a match that was, it was a good match, but come on, man. Why did the Hurt Business fly all the way to Saudi Arabia to get beat by the Usos? That sucked. Leslie versus Goldberg was announced as Falls Count Anywhere in addition to No Holds Barred. And then Brock versus Roman was announced as No Disqualification. And then that was declined by both parties. So they announced it as No Disqualification. And then mere moments later was like, Brock and Roman was like, nah. Nah. I mean, we did the big contract signing and everything, but nah. Which was, to me, I thought that was going to be the wool they pull over Brock's eyes, is that the match is going to end up being No Disqualification so the Usos could be involved. But then they got the Usos involved anyway. All right. Let's do this. First match of the show, Hell in a Cell, Seth Rollins versus Edge. And this match was, they turned the volume all the way up for this one. This is one of the better new era Hell in a Cell matches. Not, one of the best ever. The bloody, fights of the Attitude Era. Most of them. Well, the first couple. Shawn and Undertaker, Foley Undertaker, of course. Those were vastly superior. Some of the ones, the Brock Undertaker Hell in a Cell match, awesome. That was, I'm talking about the first one. All right, the first Brock Undertaker Hell in a Cell match. Tremendous. Now, Jericho Triple H, not so much. Cactus Jack Triple H, it was good, but not on that next tier. This is below all of, I wouldn't say below all of those. This is a brutal match that could definitely have been taken to the next level with some blood. That's all it really needed. It had great story. It was different from all the other matches that they've done. The story was there. As far as the build to the story, the anticipation, the crowd was there. The crowd was really into Edge. Edge ditched the long coat, by the way. He saw that it was probably like 300 degrees in Saudi Arabia and just said, you know what? No. No. He wore a vest. So, okay, cool. Jessica Carr was the referee, which surprised me because I was like, they coming with the women right out the gate, huh? They really testing these Saudis right out the gate, but it was cool, you know. And that was something that I really liked throughout the show. Is it really seemed, and I don't want to be, the spokesman for Saudi Arabia, but it really seemed like they really have changed some of the stuff in Saudi Arabia. Go look at some of the early when women would appear in Saudi Arabia, and look at it now. Like there was no issues, there was nobody threw paper at anybody or anything like that. The crowd seems to be mostly people who wanted to be there this time too, as opposed to the novelty of it. It's like, I think that's the early Saudi shows. There was a lot of people who was like, it's a novel thing. Like, what do we do here? But now people see that it's mostly a children's thing, and you see a lot of kids and young people there. Not so many older folks sitting around ringside staring at what is going on here, but like young people who knew who knew the stories, who knew how to get into it, who was really excited they were having a show in front of them, and that really lifted this Rollins and Edge match. Really lifted it up. Is that the crowd was really into it. I like that they told the story with the metal bar that Edge took off the chair. He broke it. He tried to use it. Rollins got away from it. Then Rollins got the hold of it. He tried to stab Edge in the eye. Didn't work. Later, he did stab Edge in the eye with it, which I thought should have led to the finish. That was one of the things that I had a problem with this match. I felt like they were doing a little too much. It didn't quite reach cartoonish levels of violence, but it was, man, I can't believe they're kicking out of everything. But they did still build up certain things to make sense. And one of the things that I really liked is when Seth tied the chain around his boot. I felt like that was an excellent visual, and you instantly knew what bad things could happen if he was to stomp Edge with that boot. Now, a nitpick, I wouldn't have had him kick Edge with that chain twice. I really cringe when guys have metal chains and they hit guys 100 times with the metal chain, proving that, and especially since there's no blood, because it kind of gives away that you're not really doing much of anything, But Edge did sell those shuffle side kicks with the chain, so okay. And Rollins just kind of let the match breathe. They didn't rush it. They let it breathe. And some people think letting it breathe is they were slow. There were some parts of the match that were slow. When Rollins was on the top rope and he had to wait for Edge to push him off the top rope so he can bounce off the cage and fall through the table, that was kind of slow. Because it was kind of like, all right, Edge, get your ass up. Come on. But he was still there for the spot. But Edge he killed it. They did a great job. It was a great job. The finish was okay. The stomp, Edge botched the stomp, but, it's not his move. He was doing Rollins moves all night, which I thought was pretty cool, too, because he had spent the story talking about how they're so similar. And then he said, then it's kind of like he's stooping to Rollins' level, by doing kind of the same stuff Rollins would do. And I like how he wrapped the chain around his face, and then when that didn't work, he moved it to the bar, into the mouth and everything. And it was all really cool visual. And at the end, after Rollins is pinned from the stomp on the chair, the crowd gave Edge finally that reaction that I think he had been looking for the entire time that the crowds have been back. Edge has been he's been waiting for that big moment, and it was supposed to be WrestleMania, but then they muscled Daniel Bryan into that thing, and Edge was half turned heel. SummerSlam was big, that was important, but I think this was finally the big emotional reaction that Edge was looking for, that since he had came back with crowds. But I did have a problem with, I felt like the match was, despite the fact that it was a little long, I was like, are they just going to kill the crowd? Because, what you don't want is for the crowd to be dead after the first match. And they didn't have that problem. Maybe because the first two matches were kind of okay and not the best thing to write home about. They were bring me down matches, as Bruce Pritchard would say. So the second match Mustafa Ali defeated by Mansoor. Mansoor wins with a springboard neck breaker. Good guy, Mustafa Ali, let it be known that he is going to donate his entire Saudi Arabia paycheck to charity. And I say he should definitely donate that eyeliner he was wearing to charity. I have no idea why he was wearing eyeliner or when he started wearing eyeliner. This match was fun. It was fine. There was nothing offensive about it. The crowd was, of course, really into Mansoor. He's their guy. Mustafa Ali played it up very well. Somebody's going to get a big push when they finally beat Mansoor in Saudi Arabia. Who knows when it will be? It'll probably be years from now. But Mansoor continues to win in Saudi Arabia. His matches continue to be, I wouldn't say non-canon, but it seems to be he's almost invincible in one place. He's the only guy who gets to win in his hometown. Nobody else gets to win in their hometown except Mansoor. Interesting thing took place after the match. Mustafa Ali decided to jump Mansoor from behind. And then a mysterious guy walks down to the ring. And I'm like, who is this? What is this? Why is this? But most importantly, it took him forever to get to the ring. And then the guy unwraps his face. And I'm like, who that? Who that da? But the crowd is going nuts. They are screaming and yo. And then it's announced that his name is Tariq Al-Meni. He was a silver medalist in the Olympics. He is the guy who lost because he knocked his opponent out. And so they basically recreated that segment here, where Mustafa Ali shoots on the guy, boom, kicks him, and Ali goes down. Great feel-good moment. Hometown hero gets saved by a national celebrity. It was excellent. It was excellent stuff. I had no problem with this. It was fun. And the guy losing because he knocked his opponent out was some of the dumbest shit I think I've ever heard. I remember when it actually happened. I wasn't watching the Olympics, but I remember seeing the tweets like guy won by getting knocked out, and because I think it's not full contact in the Olympics, so it's if you knock your opponent out, you put too much force on it, it can be disqualification. So Tariq Al-Meni won the silver medal. It's native Saudi Arabian, really dope. Great moment for Mansoor. He comes out of this joint looking like, huge baby face, hanging out with a national hero. Okay, cool. It wasn't totally for us. So, okay, cool. They announced this, Natalia and Titus O'Neil announced a partnership with some breast cancer awareness organization in Saudi Arabia. Okay, sure. AJ Styles and Amos were defeated by Riddle and Randy Orton. Riddle rode a camel to the ring. Randy Orton looked at this as if to say, how many more dates is on this contract? How many more dates is on this contract? This place is driving me nuts. I think that we finally saw the breaking of Randy Orton when Riddle got up on that camel. I think he was like, just spent the last, how long has it been? It's been almost 20 years, right? So Randy has been through multiple different ridiculous segments. But I think that Riddle on the camel was it. I think that one was kind of like, man, you know what? And he looked so out of it. He looked so stunned. Like, I can't believe we're doing this. But people popped for the big camel thing, and it seemed to have really gotten over on Twitter that he was riding a camel. The camels were over in a major way on Twitter. I started seeing pictures of camels all over the place. So it was a good moment. The match itself was fine. We knew Amos and Styles weren't going to win. But the entrance took forever. In fact, the entrance I think Riddle's entrance was longer than every match in the Queen's Crown tournament. I'm almost certain it was. Speaking of which, the Queen's Crown tournament, the finale Zelina Vega defeats Dewdrop clean with the code red. And I absolutely sat stupefied. Like, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that. It's hard to be mad because I like Zelina Vega so much. And I really appreciate her talent. And she's a hell of a promo. But she's so damn small. You know, can she work? Yeah, I mean, the match itself was fine. Dewdrop, I think, would have been a better choice again overall. But I'm very interested in what Zelina Vega can do as the Queen of the Ring or the Queen's Crown or whatever they're calling it. I don't know. But I was happy for her at the end of it. You know, this was the culmination of Zelina going through all that shit what she went through with WWE, getting fired, getting brought back. They made a big deal about her being back. Then she got jobbed out. Then it looked like she was going to win Money in the Bank. Then she lost that too. Then she went back to being a jobber. Then it looked like she was going to team with Carmella and Sasha Banks. Then nope, she was still a jobber. And then out of nowhere, she started building up wins. And now she's won the tournament. And she's won pretty much every match clean. With the exception of the Carmella thing, which was, you know, some Liv Morgan shenanigans. But this was good, you know. I think this is something for the record books. You know, winning the King of the Ring is something that they can't take back. Even if they, you know, you manage to lose the crown, you always have won the King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring or whatever. And you really can't undo the first time ever. So I think, and the match was only 5 minutes. So it was the longest match of the tournament. But it still wasn't that long. The match itself was fine, I guess. It wasn't horrible. I was just stupefied by the finish. You could have done Zelina winning without killing Dewdrop, and I feel like they were trying to kill Dewdrop in this situation. But she was just happy-go-lucky babyface, and nothing mattered. But Zelina Vega wins. It was a good choice. Now I'm going to be really looking forward to her promos and how she really exudes this character, how she, you know, where she goes from here. I'm very interested in what they're doing. And I'm glad I was wrong because I thought that Dewdrop would win just based off size. So now I see that we're going off actual skill, which is a good thing because I think Zelina Vega, I know Piper Niven fans are going to be like, no, she's so good. You need to watch more of her work. I've seen Piper Niven. I've seen Viper Niven. All right, I've seen the girl wrestle. I know she's okay, but she needs to have a personality. And right now, she doesn't have a personality. Zelina does, and it works from that perspective. It really works. Surprising victory for Zelina Vega. All right, Goldberg versus Lashley in a murder match where Goldberg wants to murder Bobby Lashley. He unsuccessfully murders Bobby Lashley, but he does actually pin him. The match itself was probably one of Goldberg's best efforts, if we're being honest. And it's because of how whoever put this match together is a goddamn genius. Because Goldberg sold for much of it. It didn't have to do too much. Lashley, you know, wrapped a metal chain around his hand during the entrance, hit Goldberg 100 times with it. Goldberg actually, you know, took time to sell it. Lashley, of course, you know, was beating him up. You know, he gets a table, hits him with a chair a bunch of times, stuff like that. Match changes. You know, the thing that swings the momentum is Goldberg dodging a spear. Lashley crashes through a table. Then he pummels him. You know, spear, jackhammer. Then he doesn't go for the pin. He instead throws him outside of the ring, spears him through the barricade. They continue to fight. The Hurt Business showed up. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. They get beat up by Bill Goldberg. Lashley then picks up a kendo stick. He tries to fight Bill Goldberg with the kendo stick. That didn't work. Goldberg beat him with a kendo stick. Then Goldberg broke the kendo sticks. Speared Lashley off the ramp through 3 tables onto the floor and pinned him. Hey, look, man. I'm not a big fan of Lashley losing this match, but this was a good finish. That finish was great. It was an excellent finish. because it's not something that Goldberg would do. This was such a non-Goldberg match. You know, it was a non-traditional Goldberg match. It felt more, I don't want to say personal, but it felt more action packed. It felt more intense. Not as intense as, a prime Goldberg match, but it really felt like, these two guys intended to go out there and get it in. But Rollins and Edge had done so much that we had already seen ladders and tables. We had already seen chains and chairs and sticks and of all kinds. So they didn't attempt to go through and do all that stuff. Instead, they stuck to Lashley trying to decimate Goldberg and Goldberg wanting revenge. Like after he hit the jackhammer, he didn't go for the pin, which I thought was an interesting character choice because we now have seen that it's not about pinfalls and submissions. It's about maiming and harming and doing serious damage to Lashley. Of course, Lashley walked away, literally walked away. They didn't even do an ambulance spot, which I think they probably should have done. If you're going to have Lashley do the job, at least do an ambulance spot so that we can make it seem like Goldberg made do on his word, and then Lashley comes back like, Goldberg underestimated me. But it was fine. It was not offensive. I found it to be quite fun. It wasn't boring. It wasn't the usual Goldberg fare. It was good. I enjoyed it. One thing that I found to be, great, and I really like this about the Saudi shows, they seem to put less emphasis on a lot of the BS, like especially the first two shows, I felt were a little too much into the almost political arena. Like, oh, women can drive cars now and all that kind of stuff. We really didn't need that. But I did enjoy seeing Goldberg with the kids. To me, seeing all the Saudi kids was really cool because it brings a unique American experience that they don't always get to experience to them. And I know there's a lot of people in the UK that are probably like, motherfucker, there's 2 Saudi shows a year. You can't have one show in London. You can't have one big show in London, but you have 2 Saudi shows a year. This is bullshit. And you know what? I think they should go full international a couple of times a year, or at least on a semi-annual basis. I don't see why you can't do a Beast in the East every other year. A big show in Japan, a big show in England, a big show in Saudi Arabia, a big show in South America, a big show in Mexico, or not Puerto Rico is not technically a different country because Puerto Rico exists in a very weird space where it's kind of a state but technically not a state, so I wouldn't go there. But go there to that, like, talk about international. But it should be a big show in Montreal, at least once every other year or so. A big one in London, a big one in Japan, just to put your boot there every once in a while. I think they do kind of leave some markets open, but seeing all the kids was a good thing because it's like you see that it's a global audience that everywhere they go, it's pretty much the same demographic, young people and children. And it's really dope. It's really dope seeing families enjoy a wrestling show. Even if I personally would want to see more blood and cussing and all that kind of stuff, it's really cool that when I was a kid, I was able to enjoy wrestling and not have to, be super concerned about it not being Memphis or whatever the fuck they wanted it to be. So I want that for other people's kids too, because that's the future of the business. The future of the business ain't in 40-year-old guys going to the shows. The future is in, children being interested and really enjoying it and loving it and going into it because they become the next wrestlers. They become the next commentators. They're the future of the business. So I'm all okay with the kids. So everybody who's mad about the Saudi shows, like, I don't care, man. This is not for the royal family, even if they're just paying for it. It's for their Americanized citizens who enjoy a hell of a lot of American culture, of which WWE is, one of those things. So I have no problem with it. And Goldberg being super over there with the kids was a big thumbs up for me. I thought that was great, especially considering he's Jewish. And that was another thing that I thought was very interesting, is that the Saudi kids doesn't care that Goldberg is Jewish. They just think Goldberg is cool. All the politics and the bullshit that people are so worried about all the women have to cover up and, yada, yada, yada. It's like, man, they don't care. They're children. They don't give a shit about none of that stuff. So I don't give a shit. Let the kids have their fun. If the king wants to pay $50 million so that the kids can have fun for one day, you know what? That's a hell of a lot more than most American adults are paying to have for their kids to have fun. So I'm okay with that. All right, I talked about that too long. King of the Ring, Xavier Woods versus Finn Balor. Xavier Woods wins this match. The match was very solid. It was a pretty good babyface versus babyface match. There was no heat between them. So I was kind of waiting for something to happen that would, create the heat. Nothing ever happened. Xavier Woods just won the match with a suplex gutbuster into his flying elbow drop. And Xavier Woods just about cried. He almost cried again. He cried 3 times on TV already. But he finally got what he wanted. People, the wrestling intelligentsia is so happy. They're thrilled. Various wrestlers from all over the wrestling business are like, man, I've seen Xavier Woods talk about being king of the ring for 10 years. And now he's finally done it. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know he was that passionate about it. I thought he just started out of nowhere that he wanted the king of the ring back. But he's been talking about this for a long time. So this is a good thing. I don't like feel good moments for the sake of. To me, it feels like, okay, we've done it. Now I'm saying, now what? We've got the king of the ring, Xavier Woods. He's reached, I guess, the pinnacle of his career. I'm guessing he's going to win some type of singles title at some point. Other than this, this is technically a singles title. So now what? Do we continue to push him as a single star? You can, up to a point. So I'm really interested in what they do next. And I felt bad for Finn Balor. I really did, because he went all the way to Saudi Arabia. I've always said this guy is one of the most marketable guys that WWE has never done anything with. And they continue to not do anything with him. And you know what? He doesn't really need to win the King of the Ring. He's multiple time NXT champion, won the Universal title, won the Intercontinental title, but he's never been the man. And I feel like Finn Balor is one of those guys who could be the man. We're just probably never going to get it because of his size. And it's, probably one of the reasons why he, felt so strongly about leaving Japan is that, and a lot of guys do that, they get stuck in that juniors division and they're kind of like, man, fuck this, 10 years in the juniors division, fuck this, I'm out of here. But I really like Finn Balor. Hopefully it's not the end for him. Maybe he could still turn heel and reinvigorate this whole thing, but it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good, but it was a good match. Speaking of good match, Big E versus Drew McIntyre was a completely mind-blowing experience. I just said to myself, these guys must be trolling. When I saw Drew McIntyre do an arm drag, I was like, wait a minute. Then he did one of those combination pins where it kind of looked like he was going to put him in a Koji clutch, but it ended up being like a sunset flip with the shoulders down. I was like, what? Then I saw him do a Michinoku driver. I'm like, wait, what? What are these boys doing, man? What are they doing? And they just went in there and decided to have fun, try out a bunch of different moves. And I was like, okay, all right. They kicked out of each other's finishes. Didn't really care for that. But Big E with the stretch muffler looked pretty good. I remember when Brock used to use the stretch muffler. I used to love that. I wish Big E would use that like a regular hold. Everybody needs to have a submission hold. So maybe Big E should start using the stretch muffler. That would be dope. Especially since I don't really care for the big ending, if we're being honest. He countered the Claymore. I thought it was pretty sweet, man. This match itself was really impressive, really good heavyweight bout. I enjoyed the hell out of it. There was nothing I can say that I would have added to the match or took away from it, other than it needed some heat because it was babyface versus babyface. So other than that, I really don't have anything negative to say about that match, and that's good, you know. And Big E's off to a decent start. He really needs a feud badly, because since Lashley, the feud with Lashley ended, he's kind of been floundering out there. You got to heat somebody up fast, you know, fast. Okay, they're doing Be a Star in Saudi Arabia, which I know is very ironic, especially considering Mansoor was there and Mansoor was making fun of Jews, but that was a long time ago. He's a different person. It was what, 2015, I think it was, when he was making fun of Jews. I think he's learned his lesson. Plus, I don't believe in cancel culture. You know, people change. You know, people have bad times. They have bad days. It's about consistency. Are you consistently a shithead or not? And I haven't seen too much shithead behavior from Mansoor. But pretty much to me, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this was very close to being the match of the night. The triple threat match: Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. That Hell in a Cell match was very good. It teeters on being the match of the night for me. But I think in that second spot is this, because this is very close to being the match of the night too. What keeps this from being the match of the night is how clunky some of the spots were. I think they're the tights, the long tights, and the shirts and everything kind of limited some of the movement. But their spots were pretty good. They just didn't complete all of them. Like, you could see what they were trying to do sometimes, but even what they did do was very fucking good. The Bianca Belair with the one hand press on Sasha Banks, awesome visual. Of course, you have to know the magic of how it worked, which is, of course, that Sasha Banks is holding herself up by Bianca Belair's shoulders. But other than that, it's an amazing visual. You know, all the girls were over, which, you know, when you're a star everywhere, not just in your hometown, Mansoor. But it was excellent. Bianca, they did a spot. Bianca's strength spots are very underrated. They have really done her a great service in making sure that they emphasize how strong she is in essentially every match, where she picks up two people, tries to pick up two people. They tried to do something where she was going to double bridge Sasha and Becky both on her. She was going to bridge out with both of them. But I think Sasha fell off. And there was another one where she was going to pick up and the disarmor. She was going to counter it by picking up both of them. And then Becky slipped off. One day, she's going to be able to do a spot and hold them both in place at the same time. And it's gonna rule. But, you know, they got away with it this time. But there was one spot where I think Becky does a monkey flip on Sasha. Then she gets caught by Bianca. Then Bianca is going to powerbomb her into Becky. Sasha reverses it into a hurricanrana and sends Bianca shoulder first into Becky. It looked like a Young Buck spot. And I didn't like that. That was a little too choreographed for my taste. The one arm thing, very choreographed, but also very cool, very original. Don't think I've ever seen that before. But, you know, the unnecessary, I'm going to do this to you, then you do this to me, and I'm going to dibbity. Like, nah, man. It's a little too much. It's a little too much connect the dots here. I didn't need that. But this match was very good. You know, the false finishes felt like false finishes. Everybody fought to win. There wasn't a lot of just showing off for the sake of. It felt like, you know, hey, everything had purpose. Everybody was looking to score to win. Everybody wanted to win. And the crowd was into it. So there literally is nothing wrong with this match. And it was absolutely awesome. All the girls delivered. Becky Lynch wins by grabbing the ropes. A small package, and she grabbed the ropes on Sasha. So she escapes with the title. And now we have a very interesting conundrum that they've created, where usually you say WWE booked themselves into a corner. And they have, because now Charlotte is the champion of SmackDown. Charlotte is the champion of Raw. She's on SmackDown. Becky Lynch is the champion of SmackDown, but she's on Raw. So are they going to do the title switch where one gives the other one the belt, the other one, or are they going to make it interesting and they're going to do Survivor Series winner takes all, which is something I think they might be able to get away with. I think you might be able to get away with a winner take all match at Survivor Series, or another triple threat match, another fatal 4-way match in which, and you can still do that and have winner take all, but they're going to get these belts on their appropriate brands some way, but it has to be some type of creative way. It can't be just, I'm going to give you this belt, you give me that one. That would suck, because technically when you did that, you relinquished the title. And I really didn't think about that when the Street Profits did it with the New Day. I'm like, technically you're relinquishing your championship, when you give it away. Ted DiBiase couldn't buy it, so you shouldn't be able to give it away. You shouldn't be able to just gift somebody a title. They should have to have earned it, but through some type of means. And being the champion of another brand shouldn't equate. It shouldn't be, considered that way. Yes, the titles are of equal measure, but you should have to actually literally win that title, not be given that title. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I am interested in what they are and how it's going to work out. My only guess is that they're probably going to have continue with the brand to brand stuff, and then they're just going to have each one of them lose the titles, where Becky's eventually going to drop that belt to somebody on SmackDown, probably Sasha. I'm just going to keep saying Sasha until it is. And Charlotte is going to have to drop that belt to somebody on Raw, more likely Bianca. And I'm going to keep saying Bianca until it happens. So I personally not a fan of 3 of the 4 horsewomen being on SmackDown. Not a fan of that at all. But especially since Bayley's coming back, they all going to be on SmackDown. But then again, it could actually be very interesting because then Raw will have a completely new women's division. It would be Bianca, Rhea, Zelina, hopefully Asuka when she comes back. So that could be a women's division. Alexa Bliss when she comes back. It could be a women's division. Shayna Baszler, I think. No, Shayna Baszler on SmackDown. But it could be a completely different women's division. A women's division without the 4 horsewomen. So that could actually be very interesting. So maybe all the 4 horsewomen being on one show isn't such a bad idea. Maybe it's not. But the title situation is going to be very interesting. How they're going to get the ways out of it. Just don't do just a random switch. That would suck. That would be really bad, really boring, and would really piss me off, which is, of course, means that's likely what they're going to do. Main event time. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title and custody of Paul Heyman. So Brock is a massive human being. He gets bigger every single time I see him. I don't think I'll ever get tired of that. He is massive. So the match itself wasn't very long, but the crowd was really into it. To me, this wasn't the best match they've ever had. It wasn't the worst, but I think it was the one I was more interested in because of that Paul Heyman angle. And so, Roman's trying to stay away from Brock's strength. They spam their big moves, the German suplex and, Superman punch and everything. And Paul throws the belt in the ring. Earlier in the night, he had cut this promo by saying he was in the corner of the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, and after the match, he's going to be in the corner of the Universal Champion without saying who. And so that, of course, was a great hang-up for when the match starts. And Paul throws the belt in the ring. But he throws the belt in the ring in a way where it splits between the two of them. So it's just sitting there for either one of them to get. And Brock grabs the belt, Roman grabs the belt, and they do a callback to their terrible go-home show for WrestleMania where they did the tug of war. They did another tug of war. Brock wins the tug of war. He snatches the Universal title. He looks up. Oh, there's the Usos. Double super kick. They go down. The referee had been bumped by this point. Charles Robinson had been killed by Brock throwing a 300-pound man on him. Out of nowhere, here comes Roman with the belt. Bangs across Brock's head. Brock gets pinned. He's lost. Looking up at the lights. Roman is number one. Continued to be number one. And everything worked out just as they planned it, or did it. All right, so the match itself, like I said, not their best match, not their worst. I think it was very fun though. The storyline is unresolved. The question was never answered about whose corner was Paul Heyman in. It was left ambiguous, let again, that Paul was trying to help them both, or trying to help one or the other, and we'll never actually know. But this only means that the feud continues. This also only means that perhaps there's another Brock versus Roman match coming down the pipe. I'm not a fan of that idea. I don't want Brock to win the Royal Rumble. I don't want him to beat the Usos 2-on-1. I want Brock to go on a long vacation, and then we pull a swerve or something. And I truly believe that we are going to swerve, and Roman's going to kill Paul. I still believe it's going to happen. We still got SmackDown, and we still have more shows to go. And I think eventually Roman will turn on Paul Heyman. But this time Brock won't be there to save him. And it's really going to turn out bad. And maybe we'll get a babyface Heyman alliance with him and some other guys that have been underutilized in WWE. And, kind of like the Dangerous Alliance, but it's kind of what would they call it? The Heyman Alliance? Where Paul with like 4 other guys, and they're all going to try to defeat Roman and take the Universal title from him. That could be fun. I like the idea of trying babyface Paul Heyman. I know people don't like that idea, but I think I want to try it. I think it's worth giving it a shot and having Paul Heyman be a babyface and tell the secrets of the Tribal Chiefs family and spill the beans and talk about his weaknesses and, really bring something new and fresh to this storyline. And I still believe that Paul Heyman is going to get kicked out of the bloodline. I believe it. I fully believe it. But let me know what you guys think about this show in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.